runs when it's in neutral.
Hello and welcome to Sullivan Farm. Bit of research going on around here at the moment. Some new research being started and some results coming in as well. The first bit anyway was to throw out a bit of 18612 on this field. It was cut for silage last week and it was one of those part B or the second part of the first cut fields. The plan wasn't to cut silage off it, but it just got too strong, so it didn't get a huge amount of nitrogen in advance of the silage being cut. So I was a little bit anxious to get something out in it, so I threw out a bag to the acre of 18612 on this and another paddock across the way, across the roadway from here as well. One place I didn't throw it out on was the paddocks here, the dedicated silage paddocks. So they got their sufficient nitrogen. I don't spread an awful lot of it. I don't follow the recommendations, but I spread enough for silage ground. Now again, there's a nice cover here coming back after, I suppose it's probably a fortnight now since the silage was cut. But these couple of paddocks are a little bit more exposed to the wind and to the sun compared to the ones we were just looking at over there in that direction I think. So we'll see. Will there be something to see in a couple of weeks time? Will there be a massive difference between the two? I don't know. I asked on Twitter, I think it was, what the official line was. Now, not that I was going to follow that to the T either, but as ever, everybody had their own experiences, which is all I'm looking to figure out for myself as well. Some lads said spread the compounds and you'll be fine. Somebody else said leave it in the bag, it's only a complete waste. I'll know more myself for what I spread on the different fields I spread it on in a couple of weeks time. And I suppose that's what we're all aiming for, figure out what works on our own ground. Quick look at the bales as we're passing. I'm after checking them maybe 3 times in the last week and there's not any holes in them yet from birds, but I'm keeping a close eye on it. I put grease on the top of a few of them over in the other row over there in the distance. I don't know if that has helped or that has hindered, but there's not holes in any of them so far. I think I patched 2 small little bird holes in one of them so far. There's a bit of poop on the top of them here and there, but again, nothing major so far. Another reason I am anxious enough to get that bit of fertilizer out is that there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of grass around the place. There's enough. I'm just doing a grass walk at the moment here, but if we had another week or 10 days of this kind of weather, things might be coming under a little bit of pressure then. All right, this is another research site, let's call it that, where I set multi-species grass seed a couple of years ago, and you can kind of see it now. I don't know if you get the full effect on camera, but it's all docks at the moment, and I'm torn between burning them all off again and starting from scratch again with just plain grass seed and extra clover, or sort of seeing how it plays out, which is a kind of a silly thing to say really when there's an awful lot of docks in the field. But the costs of respraying it or spraying it off again and reseeding it again, I've already saved that in the reduced fertilizer that was spread down here over the past few years. I've spread little or nothing out of the bag down here. Didn't get an awful lot of dung or slurry or anything like that either. But there's something to the multi-species stuff. The grass just kept coming back and coming back. Chicory and the plantain faded, and now it's all docks, but there's still something to it. I think the mistakes I made were in establishment. Applying a post-emergent spray would have made a huge difference to the docks that were coming in it even then, as soon as it was done. But you can't do that because the plantain and the chicory have got big leaves and they would have died off as well. So I'm kind of torn, and one of the things that's tearing me is this, and hopefully now we can see it on camera. The cattle have just gone out of this field and they've eaten the docks. They've eaten the leaves off the docks. The stalks are still there, but they've eaten the leaves off them, which ties in with what a couple of people have said to me before. When they stopped spreading nitrogen out of the bag, the docks seem to change and the cattle and the cows seem to eat them. So I don't know the science behind that or how that works, but I've seen it with my own eyes now. There is something to that. Speaking of the cattle, we're walking past them here as we go to another research trial site. They've just finished the docks and they're out here on a couple of paddocks that were, I suppose, what would you call it? First cut pair 3. In fairness, that contractor neighbour must have great patience with me. But anyway, we cut that earlier in the week, and again, it was just gone too strong. The plan wasn't to cut it, but the grass just went too strong the last couple of weeks. So I think we got just about 5 bales to the acre off it. The cattle seem to like this weather, even if the grass isn't growing great because of the lack of rain. The cattle seem to like it. You see them lying around, they're grazing now, but you'd see them lying around sunning themselves and picking away at the grass. They seem to be even eating a bit of stem here and there as well. They're not eating the stem of the docks just yet, but we'll start them off getting, if we can get them to eat the stem of the docks, we're laughing all together. If they're eating the leaves, we're happy enough with that at the moment. Cattle are in the near knock, and we're going out for a quick look here at the far off knock, or more specifically the far off side of the far off knock. The near side of the far off knock is okay. Grass is heading out a little bit. They'll come in here next, maybe later on today or sometime tomorrow, and they'll get a couple of days out of that. Now the far off side, the far off knock, grass has just gone nuts out there. It's gone very strong, covers, I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 maybe. But I'm not going to cut silage off it either, but there's a few clumps of rushes here and there, and it'd be awkward for the contractor to get in and around those. So we're going to try whatever they call it in the regenerative world, the bit of mob grazing. We'll see how they get on. They'll get a couple of days out of it. They'll lie on some of it, they'll stamp more of it into the ground, but apparently that's very good for the soil. So we'll see how they go. Now the other side of it, the more practical, that's the kind of research side of it. The more practical side is the fact that there's not a huge amount of grass every place else. So there's no point in cutting silage off it anyway, if we might be feeding the silage bales back to them there in another fortnight's time. So this is the far off side of the far off knock. It is real, you call it hay meadow type stuff, and we'll see how they go in it. They're not going to be mad about it, but there's plenty grass, plenty leafy stuff, as well as the more stemmier stuff. And again, it is all research. I upgraded the marker that I was putting on the bales to know what paddocks they were from. I invested in insulating tape. So yellow for some paddocks, red dust for others, and then the default is the main cut itself, so they have no markings. We'll see, the rain might wash them off, but sure, look, I've some loose idea as to what came from where anyway, so they look a bit, I don't know, artistic or unusual anyway, a bit like myself. Things are generally quiet enough around the farm at the moment, so I'm going to take the opportunity to bring the tractor to the garage and get a few little jobs done on it. First job, I think it's something to do with the solenoids, is to get that orange flashing light sorted. I think it's just a matter of swapping out or resetting the solenoids, and it's linked to the forward and reverse handle here. Another job will be to get all the serious stuff, to get an aerial connected for the radio, so I'm not stuck trying to connect up the phone or putting in CDs from 20 years ago. PTO runs when it's in neutral, so that's another little job to ask the man to look at as well. Probably change the oil and the fuel filters and, well, the exhaust again. kind of at a rakish angle, is that what they call it? Hard to see, but that bracket on the loader needs to be straightened and a new pin put in it too. And then the job that prompted all the going to the garage thinking is to fix some sort of a switch underneath the power take off lever here, and it's a safety, which we don't compromise on that around here anyway. The tractor won't start if the little switch is one way or the other. Now, the man from the garage called and got me going there one evening when I was stuck a few weeks ago, and I've been threatening to go to the garage since then. So now, all going well, we go in the next few days. I was definitely making headway with the last 5 Wainlands. They're off milk a few days. I was very impersonal with them when I was coming over giving them the cubes, and they weren't bawling as much. And then the boss appeared over.
Only 2 hands, don't I? It's nice to see you two. Hello. Enjoying the weather, aren't you? Sucks. There's nothing coming out of there, is there? No.
There they are, waiting for the boss to see if she'd come back talking to him again, or that kind of carry on. But that's it for this video. We looked at a bit of research on fertiliser and whether it's going to wash in or not, or whether it is a complete waste. The multi-species sward, that's now a docks that the cattle are eating. And I suppose I meant to say too, it's probably the dry weather means the docks are a bit more palatable as well. It's not just the lack of bagged nitrogen going out. We looked at long grass and how the cattle hopefully will eat that next. And then there's the few jobs to do on the tractor as well. So if you have any comments on any of the above, throw it into the section below. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck.